Have you ever looked into the eyes of an abused animal and wonder what happened to you? How can we who can do something this inhumane to the is the person who did this to you paying for the suffering they caused you? How could we as a society let this occur? How can society prevent this from happening to other animals? I know I have, and I'm sure as an animal lover, you have too. Today I'm going to convince you that those that commit acts of animal cruelty need to receive harsher punishments in order to prevent them and others from committing future acts of animal cruelty or worse, more aggressive crimes. What is animal cruelty? The Free Dictionary by Farlex defines animal cruelty as inflicting pain, suffering, or death upon animals. According to the article, The 7 Forms of Animal Cruelty, I found on QualityDogFence.com website, there are 3 categories: abuse, neglect, and hoarding. There are 4 forms of abuse in the abuse category. Intentional, which is deliberately hurting them by striking, wounding, or meaningless shouting. Organized, such as dogfighting and sports with animals made to entertain by betting. Ritual, which can require mutilation and sacrifice. And sexual. There are 2 forms of neglect: simple neglect. This includes forgetting animals' needs: food, water, shelter, exercise, vet care, due to other life issues. Cruel, gross, malicious, and willful neglect is the second, caused by owners with lack of care, malice, or cruelty, not providing necessary life needs. Hoarding, failure to properly care for multiple numbers of animals. Animal cruelty occurs much too often. I know you have all seen the suffering inflicted on the innocent animals, and surely we all want their suffering to end. We can't end their suffering with punishments that hardly exist. Let's discuss these punishments further. I'm sure you will agree that harsher punishment is needed. According to the article, Animal Cruelty, penalties too weak. The RSACA believe animal abusers aren't facing penalties tough enough to reflect the crime committed or to prevent repeat offenders. RSPCA also believes the sentences were falling short of community expectations. According to the article, animal abuse and other crimes provided by the HG.org website states aren't providing significant penalties for animal abuse crimes because most states treat animals as property. This only holds the potential to be charged with a misdemeanor with a maximum jail sentence of 1 year or less. According to the article Animal Cruelty, penalties too weak. From earlier, the RSPCA states the same people are absolutely reoffending, and even when they're reoffending, they're not necessarily seeing tough penalties even the second or third time. Now that we all know the current punishments that animal abusers are facing, let's learn what current research is starting and why it's extremely important that harsher punishments are needed to prevent future crimes. Animal abuse has some predictive features. According to the article Animal Abuse and Other Crimes from earlier, statistics show strong correlation between animal abuse and the commission of other crimes. In this article, police officers, social workers, and prosecutors also report they have seen a correlation between a history of animal abuse and the ability to predict violent crimes in the future. This article also states animal abuse can often help predict the potential for a person to commit crimes in the future, including very serious and violent crimes. The article Animal Cruelty Penalties Too Weak from earlier states that studies showed animal cruelty could be a precursor to violence against humans. Knowing that animal abuse can potentially lead to future crimes, the article Animal Abuse and Other Crimes shed some light on the topic. It stated that studies shows correlation between animal abuse and crimes such as rape, sexual homicide, and domestic violence. The visual aid I provided shows all the statistics from the article. So it states that 70% of animal abusers the first one states that 70% of animal abusers later move on to commit other crimes. The second one is 2/3 of animal abusers also have assaulted a person. The third, 100% of individuals who commit sexual homicide has a history of animal abuse. The fourth, 80 to 90% of domestic violence victims have stated abuse has started Let me redo that. Domestic violence victims has started abuse of an animal. Sorry, let me start that again. 80 to 90% of domestic violence victims have stated abuse of an animal started first. The fifth one here is 1/3 of abused children move on to actually become the abusers, and they also wind up abusing animals themselves. It also stated that animal abusers are 500% more likely to commit violent crimes, and animal abusers are 300% more likely to commit crimes related. The article also stated that serial killers have a history of animal abuse. After viewing these frightening statistics, I'm sure we are all in agreement that harsher punishment is the only way to proceed. Let's discuss the potential punishments that are in the works. According to the article, Animal Abuse and Other Crimes, states have started taking animal abuse more seriously. Now, some animal cruelty crimes are even considered felonies. One punishment stated in the Animal Abuse and Other Crimes article is psychiatric intervention, which some states have considered passing laws that would require individuals convicted of animal abuse to undergo and complete as a condition of their release. The article also states that some states are focusing more on keeping animal abuse offenders locked up longer, so they are removed from the ability to abuse others. The most interesting punishment is the Animal Abuse Registry. According to the Animal Abuser Registry Act located on the Animal Law Resource Center website, the registry is a database where animal abusers will have to provide their name, date of birth, race, gender, address, current photo, fingerprints, and nature and date of offenses. According to this website and a news article, Assembly Panel advances Sellington, Conaway, Persuasive bill to crack down on animal cruelty violators and create public list of offenders. found in the State News Service of New Jersey. Both state that the registry will prohibit anyone on it from owning, operating, or working in an animal-related enterprise. It will also prohibit pet ownership and forfeiture of currently owned animals. These bans can be placed up to 10 years. The registry would also be available to all adoption sites. This way, people that do wind up on the registry don't end up with animals. After everything I presented to you all today, I'm positive that most, if not all of you, are in full support for harsher punishment. If anyone still needs convincing, let's hear one of the highest success stories. I'm sure everyone has heard about Michael Vick's animal cruelty crimes. In 2007, the article Vegans for Vick, Dogfighting, Intersectional Politics, and the Limits of Mainstream Discourse, written by Garrett M. Broad, will give us a better understanding of the full story. According to the article, Vick's criminal activity involved knowingly transmitting STDs, drug trafficking, and drug possession. The NFL even fined Vick for giving the middle finger to the fans after a losing performance on the field. The animal cruelty crimes consisted of owning and operating bad news kennels, a staging area for housing and training pit bulls, and conducting dog fights. His dogs' water bowls were speckled with allergy. Female dogs were strapped to rape stands by their heads and bred without injury. Syringes and medical supplies were found. Training equipment such as spring bars, where dogs hang by their teeth to strengthen their jaws, and treadmills were found. A fighting pit was also found. He also used to rolled his dogs, which you place your dogs in a pit for battle. Those that showed no fight were killed by gunshot, electrocution, drowning, hanging, or repeatedly slamming against the ground. Michael Vick pleaded guilty to dogfighting. He was sentenced to 23 months in federal prison and followed by 3 years of supervised release. He settled many civil charges through plea deals, costing hundreds of millions, most which covered the cost of long-term care and euthanasia of 53 pit bulls. He wound up actually serving 18 months and then had 3 years probation. He received brutal and unforgivable treatment from the press and became the most intensely vilified public figure. Then he was publicly shamed on top of all that. He is now active in various anti-dog fighting efforts. He served his time, admitted wrongdoing and regret, and he is making amends. In closing, I've convinced you that harsher punishment for animal cruelty crimes can prevent future animal cruelty from repeat offenders, future animal cruelty from new offenders, and potential escalated crime from these offenders. Let's review. Animal cruelty is inflicting physical pain, suffering, or death of an animal. There are 3 categories of animal cruelty: abuse, neglect, and hoarding, with 7 types of cruelty: simple neglect, cruel, gross, malicious, or willful neglect, animal hoarding, intentional abuse and torture, organized abuse, ritual abuse, and sexual abuse. Weak penalties are not reflecting the nature of these crimes being committed or preventing reoffenders. Animal abuse leads to a life full of potential crimes. There is significant proof supporting the connection between animal abuse and the potential for future aggressive crime. Abuse is a cycle, and the abused often become abusers themselves. Harsher punishment such as psychiatric intervention, longer jail sentencing, probation, and the animal abuse registry are all potential options that assist with preventing future animal cruelty crimes or escalated crimes from occurring. Michael Vick is one animal abuser that faced a harsher punishment for the multiple acts of animal abuse he committed, and is living proof that harsher punishments can prevent animal cruelty from reoccurring. Next time we all look into an abused animal's eyes, let's all hope it will be the last time. Any questions?
No.
No, I don't know.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the critique. Anything that I could do better?
Let's see. Because I think you're so nervous, you tend to pause a lot more or a little bit more stuttering. So try to relax a little bit, and I think it'll come to you better next time.
I guess, like Bob said, I guess you could just like relax when speaking. It'll help a lot more if you just not tense up, because I know how it is when when you're reading stuff in front of people. You just need to just relax, take it easy, and everything will eventually start to flow.
Mm-hmm. A little bit more eye contact too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all for coming.
You're very welcome. Thank you.